All right, so we are going to be looking into what you need to release and what areas you need to release some control, expectations, whatever, what have you. We're going to find out. So pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. Pile 1. Let's look at what area you need to work on releasing some in. We have the Lovers, we have Don't Dim to Fit In. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in? We have Triggered. We have Drama with number 5. We have Beau, you are highly thought of. We have Perception. And we have Mindset. So in the area of love, whether you're in a relationship romantically, whether this is any sort of love, I feel like maybe you have preconceived notions that possibly it might not work out, or because it's not going the way that you had envisioned or the way that you wanted it to, that it's not okay, or it's not how it's supposed to be, or that this is not the relationship for you. And I feel like it's important to remember that we are all mirrors. We all trigger each other. And when you see something that you don't like in someone, that's because you're feeling that way about something about you. Like, if it bothers you that someone is not very patient, then it might be because you are frustrated with yourself for not being very patient, and you see that in them, and it's a reminder kind of thing. But I feel like something about this relationship with this person has caused you to feel kind of negative, and also made you feel like you need to change something about yourself, and maybe you're afraid of rejection. There's a lot to unpack here. But you need to let go of the mindset that you have around this relationship. And keep in mind that just because you get triggered and you feel certain ways about certain things that are said or done or whatever, doesn't mean it's personal. It's not. Most of the time people do things that's not personal. It's not even about you. Just because you have a reaction to it doesn't mean it's for you to have that reaction. But I also feel like maybe if you try to put aside some of these frustrated feelings and really look at yourself and at the person that you're in this relationship with, you'll recognize that this person does care more about you than you feel like. And they will care about the you that you actually are, not the you that you think that they should care about. Because the 5 there is reminding me of like 5 of Swords type of energy, just really in your head. And that's not to say that your feelings are invalid, because they're not. They're completely justified, I'm sure. But sometimes when we're frustrated with a relationship or with a person, we have a fantasy of how we think it's going to work and it's supposed to be, and we build it up so much in our minds that it's not realistic. And that's not to say if it's not going good, you can't end it, because you absolutely can. And with this perception here, you know whether this is something you actually need to end, or whether this is something that you need to just think think about whether this is a personal issue, a you issue, or if this is an us issue, or if it's a them issue. But what you need to release is your expectation and the feeling that you need to control this other person, this other relationship situation. Because that's not what your relationship is about. It's not what it's supposed to be about. Relationships are about people accepting each other where they're at and working with them together. It's not about completing another person. It's not about being incomplete yourself. It's not about rainbows and sunshine all the absolute time. So what you need to release is the need to control. You need to let this play out how it is supposed to play out, and you need to, if it's time for it to go, accept that. You can't make something fit. You cannot force another person to act or be or do a certain thing, way, shape, form, whatever. The only way you're going to change another person is if they wear a diaper. And that might sound harsh, and that's not the way that I intend it, but that's just what I'm seeing. Don't let your unrealistic expectations ruin what could be a good thing. And remember that anxiety yells and intuition whispers. If you really take the time to figure out why what you feel, firstly, what are you feeling? And then why do you feel that way? Point the finger at yourself and really try to figure out, why does this bother you so freaking much? What happened in your life that caused you to be so bothered by this certain thing? And once you get a better understanding of yourself and how you feel, and you recognize that this other person is not intentionally triggering you, they're not intentionally trying to make you upset, they're not doing any of this, it's not about you. And once you stop taking every action personally and start looking at yourself personally, I think that's really going to help you. And that's not to say you're not a bad person for feeling the way that you do or getting into this mindset. You've done nothing necessarily wrong. But this is somewhere that you really need to grow. And this is areas that we all struggle there. We all struggle with having unrealistic expectations. We all struggle with our relationships at times, with every relationship. That's normal. That's a part of being human. But that's what I see that you need to release. Not the relationship itself necessarily, which if you need to, you know. But maybe not idealize it as much. Don't get so stuck on the idea of what you think this relationship should be that you don't let this relationship just be. Pile number 2. We have the 3 of Pentacles. We have abundance mindset. We have weight. We have black square. We have adaptability. Defense. Love. Intelligence. Charisma. Emergency fund. And school. So what you need to release is a job. a workplace, a situation. And I feel like this is something you are having a really hard time letting go of, because I feel like you've worked really hard personally and grown a lot as a person and learned a lot through this job. And sometimes whenever we put so much work into not only just the job, but into ourselves while we do the job and while we're learning, it's hard to let that go, because we have worked so hard, and that's a reminder of it, and that's, you know, kind of proof in a way. I feel like you had to learn how to be adaptable. You've had to learn how to defend yourself. You've had to work on how to maneuver every type of situation with this job. And I feel like you're hesitating to leave it, and that's absolutely understandable, completely. But I feel like you're unhappy here because this is not where your heart is. It might be where you love, but it might not be where your heart is going to be, and you know that. You might adore the people there. You might like the work. You might not have any real issue with the job itself, but you can still know that it's not for you and that it's time for you to move on. And you might be stuck right now kind of in limbo with that, where maybe it's a contract and you have to wait until you're done to leave, or maybe you don't know what your next step is going to be, and maybe you're needing to work on your emergency fund or some money that you can have set aside for whenever you are between jobs. Maybe you want to go back to school, or maybe you've just learned a lot at this job, and I get it. I have been at jobs that I have grown so much as a person. I thought I would never leave. I became very attached because of all the growth that I had done. But I also knew that it was time to leave, and I fought like hell to stay. I did not want to leave. I knew I needed to, but I didn't want to. And I knew that it was time for me to go. There was nothing else I had really to learn there. But it was still one of the hardest things that I've done, is leaving jobs that I really genuinely liked, but knew were no longer serving me or no longer working for me. And I'm not saying you have to leave this right now, but you already know that you need to release this. You already know you need to let go. And I want to recognize that you have done a lot of work, and you've changed a lot over the span of however long you've been here, regardless of how long that is, whether it's a month, a year, 10 years, whatever. And I know that it's hard to leave when you've grown up somewhere and you've grown as a person. It's like graduating and you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know where you're going to go. And even if you do, it's still going to be intimidating. And it seems unfair to you, maybe. And I understand that. I do, because we're in a society that values staying in one place for your entire career. But for some of us, that's just not what's meant to happen. Some of us are meant to move on, and as we move on and as we grow, we need to grow financially as well. But everything that you have learned here, you are going to take with you, and you're going to feel that way about other places that you go. And you're going to learn even more, and you're going to grow even more, and you're going to grow up even more. And I know that might not be very comforting right now, because it is upsetting, and you're sad, and I understand that. I do. Maybe you're just waiting for the next step. You don't know where you're going to go from this. And that might make you really nervous. But if it's time for you to leave a situation, then know that another situation is waiting for you, for the opportune moment, the opportune time. It's the whole, like, when one door closes and one opens kind of thing. But like physical doors to a workplace. And it's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel really sad and angry and like be pissed. It's not fair. You've worked hard where you're at. You've got people where you're at. This could be home, but it's not, and you know that. And that's really, really frustrating, because it might seem like you just keep going from job to job to job for a few years at a time or whatever, and you get to a really good place, and then you have to move on again. And that's really hard to do. And it's not just job hopping, it's more than that. It's more of an emotional thing than that. And you're not just flipping jobs like pancakes because you don't like the hours. It's not that your heart's not in it, because it is, but it's time for your heart to move on. That's what you need to release, and you already know that, but I feel like you really just need recognition that you are doing the right thing. And just because you feel like this about a place that's not necessarily even a bad place to work doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this job. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with these coworkers. It's just that we come to points in our lives where it's time for us to move on. And that's where you're at. That's what I see that you need to release. But also release the guilt that comes with that. I know what it's like to feel guilty for leaving a place and leaving people and leaving situations at work that you truly did enjoy, but you just, when you know, you know. I've already said that a million times, but it's going to be sad and you're going to miss it, and that's okay. The nostalgia will be there, but you will also find this in another place. All right, pile number 3. What do we need to work on releasing? We have the world. We have rock bottom. We have take the time. Number 21, I am inspiring. I always want to be one of those people that has everything perfectly lined up, but it doesn't happen. We have inspiration in the reverse. We have empathy, harmony, the oracle, endurance, and anniversary. You need to release fear of endings. Change. I feel like you've gotten comfortable somewhere, something, someone has become something almost stagnant. And I feel like you've gotten comfortable there, and that's not a problem, but you also know that that's not really what's supposed to be still going on. You can only learn to a certain point. Like, once you get to a certain point, you have to level up. You can't stay level 1 forever, even if you're comfortable where you're at, even if there are snacks, okay? Even if there are pillows and blankets. And this is something that you need to release, because it's going to end one way or another. It's just how difficult it's going to be. And that's not saying that endings are not supposed to be difficult, because they are. They absolutely are.